Now, Hilt Dependency Injection. So this is basically a library which is built on top of Dagger. So I would say that still, even though it's just built on top of Dagger, it's a lot of improvement because it made it a lot easier for developers to create the components and the dependencies, and you also don't have to write a lot of boilerplate code that we used to do or to write in Dagger. These are the three main concepts that you would need to deal with Hilt. You don't always have to create your components. You don't always have to create custom components. So Hilt has these predefined components. Okay, so hello everyone. So today we're going to be talking about dependency injection, and please excuse me because I cannot move around and this is kind of an awkward situation, but I have to stay here. So we're going to be talking about dependency injection and specifically about Hilt. But before we do that, we're going to start learning about what is dependency and what is dependency injection in the first place, and then we're going to dig into Hilt. And let me first introduce myself, and those, I think, are the 4 pictures that I thought could define me at this stage of my life. So the one at the right bottom side, which is Zalando, which is where I work right now. And I work for Zalando Lounge, or Privé, which is the campaigns app of Lounge, and we're approaching Black Friday, so get ready for the discounts and everything. And actually, the reason I mentioned Zalando mostly here is because we did the migration from Dagger to Hilt. So I hope this would be a helpful talk to you. Next thing comes, which is University of Sunderland, where I'm doing currently my master's in computer science. On the left side here, the Android cookies. Do we have any Arabs here? Any Arabs? No. No. Okay. So I'm Egyptian, and I do most of my contributions to YouTube in Arabic language, and Android Cookies is my channel. And last thing is I love traveling, so I think this is really who I am. And lastly, which I already mentioned, and proudly, I am Egyptian, and I'm currently based in Berlin because I do work for Zalando. Let's get going. Okay, so what are we going to do today? We're going to discuss dependencies, as we said. What are dependencies? What are dependency injections? And we're going to dig into a little bit some examples, like some code examples. I hope they're not boring. They're going to be a manual dependency injection, and we'll see the difference between 2 types of them, and then differences between manual and automatic dependency injection. And then maybe by then we will know why do we need dependency injection. Then we're going to Hilt. I hope that's why you're here today. We're going to introduce Hilt and try to understand the basic concepts of it so that when you decide to do the migration, hopefully you will understand, you will have like the basic concept set. Then finally, we're going to talk a little bit, very small, like small notes, about migrating from Dagger to Hilt, what obstacles you could face, and how you could resolve them, or maybe bypass them, or not just go through them. Okay, so let's get going. What is dependency? Do we have here people working with dependency libraries or something like this? Okay, everybody. Okay, do we have people working with Hilt already? Okay, interesting. So you're going to help around here because I tend to ask questions during my talks, so please just help around. Okay, so what is dependency in the beginning? Dependency is as simple as if I have a class and another class, so class A and B, and I need some functions from class B, then class B is the dependency. Like the word dependency injection might sound like complicated in the beginning, and like a couple of years back when it just like came out, like I was like, oh, this is like a hard topic, like the name is complicated, I'm not gonna dig into it. So that's an example here. So for example, if I have a view model and I'm using a function of the view model somewhere else, so the view model is the dependency. It's as simple as that. Now, moving from what is a dependency to what is a dependency injection. Now, dependency injection means to provide instances of the dependencies that you need. So back to the example that we had, the view model thing. So if the view model is the dependency because I need to use some methods of it, then I want an instance of the view model in the fragment, for example. So this is what dependency injection is all about, providing those instances instead of creating them myself. So I have these instances created outside. It's not created inside, for example, the fragment. And I need you to just highlight this word providing because it's going to be relevant in a moment. Now, first type of dependency injection. This is field dependency injection. What does it mean? Let's look here at the first example, which is without dependency injection. Now here we have a view model and we have a repository, which is our dependency. We need some method from the repo, like here, repo.getGem. So let's look down there. When we need to create the view model, we're just creating the view model and calling the method. So back here, we are creating the instance or of the repo inside the view model. So here we don't have dependency injection. On the right side, we do have a field dependency injection, which is we created the container outside the view model, and we still created the instance, but we're just creating it outside the view model, and then we're using that repo instance inside that view model. So if you see the difference between the view model here and there, highlighted in green, so repo, we get the instance of the repo from the dependency container. And I also want you to remember dependency container because, again, it's going to be relevant in a moment. So we have provides and we have dependency container. So this is a component which is outside that we're using. And then I'm using here, I'm just calling the view model, instantiating the view model as it is. Okay, now does anybody here see a problem with this kind of dependency injection? Yes, tell me please. I saw you nodding. Yeah. Okay, you said it's a static object and it's always there. And what again? What else? I forgot, sorry. Yes, okay, thank you very much.
So based on, maybe on some conditions, we may want to provide different implementation of that class.
Okay, okay, you just like ran fast forward through the presentation. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's it. That is one of the problems. But we, like with the field dependency injection, we still have like other problems. Does anybody else want to try? Okay, can we have the mic here, please? I'm sorry, because I cannot move. And okay.
It's hard to test.
It is hard to test. Okay, so pretty much the same point. Okay, but let's also see why it is hard to test. Okay, let's take that point. So here we do have coupling, right? We do see coupling between the view model and the dependency container, right? We cannot, does somebody want to say what is coupling? Or I'm gonna make him running all around the, no, okay. So, no, does anybody want to say what is coupling? No hands raised. Okay, so here we do have coupling between the view model and the container, which means that I cannot use the view model without having the dependency container inside it, right? Which makes it harder to test, as these two gentlemen said, because if I want to provide a different instance of the repo or the dependency container, it won't be possible. So let's look here. What is wrong with field dependency injection? The first thing is the coupling that we said. I cannot use the view model without the dependency container. Second thing is the implicity of the dependencies. And third is we cannot write efficient tests. So implicity of the dependencies, if we look here, when I'm creating the view model, I don't know what instances does it contain, what does it use. I have to go through the view model itself, read through the code, and just learn what dependencies does it need, right? So to fix this kind of problems we have with field dependency injection, we introduce constructor dependency injection, or we introduced, like that was before. Anyway, so the constructor dependency injection is now the example that you see on the right, and the one on the left is the field dependency injection, which we had like problems with. So what happens is that we still are using that dependency container, still that same method, but outside the view model, and we are providing the view model with the instance directly by passing it to the constructor of the view model. That's why we call it constructor dependency injection. Now, somebody wants to tell me how were those three problems solved? The coupling, the implicity of dependencies, and writing the efficient tests. Can somebody answer this? Hands. Okay, please there.
Implicity, because we write by using constructor, we see what do we need.
Exactly. Perfect. That was right. Try. What's next? So we solved this implicity implicity of dependencies by adding it to the constructor. So just by looking at the constructor, I know what this view model uses. What does it need? With the testing and also the coupling, okay, so the coupling now, I could pass any repo, any kind of repo, and this also adds up at the end to the testing point. So I could pass any kind of repo as long as it's of the same type. So when I'm testing, I could just create a mock one and just pass it. So I don't have to really have real instances of whatever is inside the repo. Okay, let's move now to manual dependency injection vs automatic dependency injection. So what we were talking about right now is manual dependency injection. We are still creating the instances ourselves. Now, the automatic dependency injection, we are delegating this task to libraries, to third-party libraries. So that's mainly the difference between them. Now, why do we need the automatic dependency injection, or what does it help us with? It provides us the instances. We don't have to create them unless that the instances we need are for third-party libraries. And we're going to have an example of that in a bit as well. Last thing, yeah, so we can handle the scope of the dependencies very easily through the third-party libraries. So we can have it, like, for example, to be alive as long as the activity is alive, as long as the fragment is alive. We can set our custom scopes. Okay, now, health dependency injection. So this is basically a library which is built on top of Dagger. So I would say that still, even though it's just built on top of Dagger, it's a lot of improvement because it made it a lot easier for developers to create the components and the dependencies, and you also don't have to write a lot of boilerplate code that we used to do or to write in Dagger. Now, we have three concepts that we're going to focus on to understand health. This is the first one. The first one is injection. So we know now what is injection, and this comes with this annotation. So health is filled with annotations, but we'll take just the basic ones today. So here, the first one, injection, and the @inject annotation. If I want to inject an instance of a class into another one, I just add the annotation @inject to it. So for example, if I need the view model somewhere in the app, and I will just add @inject before the field or before the attribute. Sorry, not attribute. Before the instance of it. Okay, so this means I want to inject the view model here in this class. But then I also have to use the same annotation inside the view model itself, but annotate its constructor. So if I look at its constructor, I will see gems details, view model, blah, 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 @inject constructor. So we add this to the constructor of view model. But now I'm telling Hilt that you will need to create an instance of the view model. But for it to create that, it will also need to create an instance of the repo, right? So I still need to go to the gems repo and annotate its constructor as well with the same annotation, which is below here. Now, going into, this is the modules here. So no, wait, just a second. Did I miss? Okay, I missed that, sorry. Okay, so here in the gems repo, if I want to, I'm telling, okay, Hilt, you will need to create an instance of the gems repo. So it's going to try to create it, but it will have a problem, which is creating the instance of retrofit, because it cannot create it And we cannot definitely go into retrofits class and annotate its constructor like we're doing here. So this is where the second concept comes. And the second annotation, and also the third, which we'll see right now, comes as well. So here, the modules are, they are components that help us to, tell Hilt how to create instances of other classes, which we cannot just like create like the GEMS view model or the repo. So here I'm going to create this class, annotate it with @module, and teach Hilt how to provide the instances. And this is where the @annotation provides comes in. If you remember a little bit ago, I told you we'll need the word provide because it's an annotation that we have here. So I want to provide, for example, I want to teach Hilt how to provide an instance of retrofit. So I will create a function called provides retrofit, just annotate it with @provides, and I will just make it return an instance of retrofit. And I just tell it how to create that one. And for the whole module that we will need to install in the component, we'll come to that, we annotate it with @module. Okay, now, so what are components here? Is everything okay? So now what are components here? Components here act as the dependency container. Remember that dependency container that we had? The one which had the repo instance? So this is the same thing, but here in Hilt, we just create this interface and annotate it with @define component, annotate it with define component. So this is the container of our dependencies, and we will have to install it into. We will have to install our modules into the components. So, for example, I need this like retrofit, the one which provides retrofit and whatever else. I will need it into a specific component. Then there is something here. So first of all, these are the three main concepts that you would need to deal with Hilt. There are, of course, more annotations that we could just not go through all of them here. But talking about components here, you don't always have to create your components. You don't always have to create custom components, like if you have any. So Hilt has these predefined components. For example, @singleton, which I will use if I want to have the instances of the dependencies I created, just to live just one instance to live throughout like the whole app lifecycle. We have the activity scope to scope it to the activity lifecycle. We have the activity retain scope, which is similar, but also keeps the instances when configuration changes happen, like when you change, rotate the screen or so. And then the view model scope, and etc. And you will just have to go through these. We still have time, right? Okay, so here, this is the last point here before we go into questions. So migrating to Hilt from Dagger. Do we have anybody here who did that? Okay. Can I ask you a question? Would you be open to that? Okay. So what problems did you find or face when you were doing that?
I felt that it was quite seamless because a lot of the boilerplate code, the annotations were reduced by introducing Hilt.
Yeah. Okay. Did you find any problems or obstacles?
Not that I can recollect, no.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So about the learning curve, it is quite simple, but you will have just to learn some new concepts, a lot of annotations, but I promise it's going to make your life easier. And for that, you just have to read or study the Hilt documentation, which is very, it is very extensive, and you won't need to check anything else. And then about the migration complexity, it will depend on your code base, whether, of course, with bigger code base, more dependencies, so it's going to be, of course, more complex. And then maybe you would break your migration into smaller pieces and migrate individual components or modules just one by one or one at a time. And then the custom scopes in Dagger. So if you have had like lots of custom scopes in Dagger, you will have to change these and adjust them and use maybe the predefined components in Hilt, the ones we were talking about here. Okay, and then the testing, this comes to like with unit testing or instrumented tests. Either of those, you will have to deal with Hilt's specific testing components, but then I would suggest that you also check the documentation, which makes it also very easy to go through. And there's also like an official migration from Dagger, because not from the other ones. So from Dagger to Hilt, so you can check that. And if you need to reach out for anything related to Jetpack libraries, at least, I hope I will be able to help. You can reach out through LinkedIn, and we can go through questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Is there any question from the audience? Yes, can you please come to the microphone?